Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer, as always, on the East Coast. And we are going to be looking at some NBA future bets here for you guys. It is our second video back for this 23-24 NBA season. Make sure to continue following along, like and subscribe to that page. The other one we have up for you is our NBA regular season win totals. We're also going to be coming to you guys with full slate of game conversations and best bets during the week this season. So like and subscribe to that page. Also head to thelines.com. You can check out everything we're putting up in written form up there for you guys. Some power rankings and other types of best bet articles around the NBA and other sports as well. You can also use that prop finder tool up there. Make sure that you're getting the best odds available to you for all of these bets in the NBA this season. Nate, let's get into your first favorite non-regular season win total futures bet here for this season.
Yeah, but I am going to go with the team that I almost took the over. I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns here, who have a total of 51.5, which I couldn't quite pull the trigger on. So instead, I'm going to say Suns to be the number one seed in the West, because honestly, if they win 53, 54 games, that probably gets you there. I don't think Denver's going to quite be the powerhouse they were last year in terms of regular season success, and we're talking plus 260 for the one seed, plus 380 for the 2 seed. So you could split those bets and profit if they get either. And people saying their concerns about the Suns' depth, their concerns that there's not enough basketballs, their concerns that they're not going to try in the regular season. I think they're going to absolutely try. I think they need to get their chemistry down. I don't expect Katie to play 70 games necessarily, but with those three guys, you saw with the Nets how you rotate two in and it looks good enough. And when you have three, it looks absolutely unstoppable. And the defensive rating doesn't matter. We're looking at a defensive rating of 121 in 8 games with KD, Book, and the corpse of Chris Paul. I mean, the defense they could break the record for offensive rating if all three of these guys stay healthy. Like, it's just absolutely undeal-withable. And I trust Frank Vogel to patch together a decent enough defense. Like I said, the depth is not that bad now that they have Nurk, Eubanks, Bol as big man options, Nasir Little, and the underrated Utah Watanabe on the wing, and then everybody's favorite hated guy, Grayson Allen. It's not a bad supporting cast. I mean, the rumor that they might get TJ McConnell, they might get somebody to kind of hold down that point guard spot. But when you have Booker and Beal, like, you don't necessarily need a true point guard. Those guys are both in line to just cook this year. They won 45 last year with Book missing 30 games, but for me, it's just like go all in or not with this team, because I just think they could be a fantastic regular season team. I do have concerns about how this all stacks up in playoff series with adjustments, so I'm not going to go ahead and take them to win the West or anything where they're favorites, but I think to be the best regular season team in that conference, I will take it.
Interesting, yeah, because obviously the regular season, they don't need to try that hard, but to your initial point that you kicked it off with, like, they do need to find chemistry before they get to the postseason, and they don't have that. Maybe you think that they had it to a degree on offense with KD and Booker because, like, how much of an offense do you need to draw up for those two guys? But I think Bradley Beal thrown in the mix is a thing. I don't think any of these guys are going to complain. I don't think any three of them are going to turn on each other essentially at any point in the season, even if things don't go stellar at first, especially if they're going to try to force Brad Beal to be the point guard, like, just because I don't know, that was a thing that Vogel said like really early in the summer for some reason. And it just didn't even seem like it needed to be said, but maybe he was just asked the question and everyone's headline became Brad Beal is the point guard of this team. Like, I just don't even think that's the case, even if that is what Vogel said when Booker's there. KD could also bring up the ball just as easily. So I would actually rather have both of those guys facilitating my offense before I would want Brad Beal doing it, which is why I'll just make the first bet I talk about my MVP bet with Booker. And I got it at plus 2,700, but you can still get it at 20-1. So I'm still happy to hit that. I think it's still valuable there on BetMGM. I think everything that you said just seamlessly segues into, well, I think Devin Booker is going to be the best player on the team if everything that you just said happens, where they gel correctly. they do or don't get a point guard, I'm not really concerned. Why would you, in my opinion? Like Booker's just going to demand the ball when he demands the ball to bring it up. And if you need someone to just pass it to Kevin Durant, I mean, Booker's still going to be happy to do that when he gets tired throughout the regular season as well. So it's like a number of guys that I really have no problem with your turn, my turn, because they also do run well in an offense together. Brad Beal was known for backdoor cuts in Washington. Devin Booker is someone who's played off the ball more than he's played on it in his career as well. So like I'm fine with the way that they're all going to gel together, to be honest. And I think in the peak of this team is the best team in the league. And we're talking about like 55 games as not even just their ceiling, but like a reasonable benchmark for them, essentially, which I think does get you the 1 seed. And if that is the case, if they're a top 2 seed in the West and Booker's putting up the numbers that I think he's capable of, which just looking at them real quick, like 28, 7, and 5. That's an MVP type season. Even if he got the assists up by 1, if he got it to 8, I think it'd be really, really nice as the best player on a top 5 team in the league. You look at what he did last season with KD in 8 regular season games, 28 and a half, 7 boards, and 4.3 assists. When you talk about when they got in the playoffs, he upped that to 33.7, 7 boards, and 4.8 assists in 11 games. So, like, he's capable of getting over those numbers. I think Kevin Durant at this point in his career, once again, is happy to be quote unquote second fiddle. I really more see him just being like Unk in the corner who's like, yo, I'm here when you need me, man, but like I'm super chilling because I don't need to be like dragging teams to 18, winning 18 out of 19 game streaks like he did on the Nets because Kyrie was off doing whatever he was doing and I had to just carry a bunch of dudes that no one had really heard of to, a number 1 seed in the East. Like he could do that, but it doesn't have to. I don't think there's any ego for him to feel the need to do that. Enter Devin Booker, who there's still a degree of something to prove for him to like essentially establish himself in that top 10 NBA player. If he really wants to reach that echelon, then this is going to be a season that I think he goes all out and does that and puts up the stats that require MVP. And at least at 20-1, that's a nice bet.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said is 28 and a half points per game. So his scoring average went up when they got KD. And that's really what you're talking about here is like, yeah, there's a lot of star power on this team. Will that hurt his usage rate? Maybe, but it will also give him a lot more one-on-one opportunities and maybe to average like 30 a game. There are some specials where the Suns win the Pacific with him averaging 28. You might want to look at that. I would look at him for clutch player of the year as well as MVP here. I mean, I have a hard time getting on board with the MVP bet just because like you're splitting responsibilities. Same way with Dame and Giannis. Do you think they're both going to be in that conversation? Are they going to split the vote? Like when was the last time we had somebody who wasn't really standing alone on their team win the MVP? But yeah, I mean that's my major concern. But also, just MVP is frustrating to follow week to week. That's why I'm going with the most improved player bet of the year, where it's just like if everything stays status quo here. This is absolutely hitting Mikal Bridges to be most improved as the favorite, but still 10-1. It's 10-1 for a guy who is like, if you just voted on the last third last season, it would be so obvious. 17 points per game to 26. Usage rate jumps 11% when he goes from the Suns to the Nets. We just saw Markkanen with a usage rate drop 7%. Get that award. Ingram a few years ago, usage rate jumped 5%. He scored 5 more a game. And I think the voters have kind of turned a little bit off that Ja Morant winning it 2 years ago, where it was like, wait, what is this award? Like all-star to superstar? And that's why I think Markkanen got it over Shea. So for me, the big dark horses here, Ant, Halliburton at 40-1 or 51 here. Are intriguing, but I think that the voters are not really going to be on that as much anymore. They want to see somebody really take a leap, even if they were a pretty good player. And so for me, it's Mikal Bridges, who is just so obviously the man in Brooklyn. Plays both ends, unlike Maxey Poole, the next 2 guys on this list. And just turned into an absolute star basically out of nowhere. Where in Phoenix, he was like just 3-and-D in the corner, maybe show us a little bit of stuff. And now just the man.
Yeah, no problem with that. I think the other thing though about Halliburton is I don't know that he's necessarily going from all star to superstar. I know he was an all star, but I still don't think he's considered as highly as Shea was before last season. I still think he's reasonable to win the award, and I'm not even poo pooing your pick because the thing about Mikhail is like if all, like you said, if it all holds the way it was at the end of last year when he when he was on the Nets, like what else do you need to know? Like that was such a small sample size that you can still just give him the award if he plays at that pace this season, which I don't think there's much reason to think he won't do that during the regular season. We clearly know he can't carry a team in the playoffs as the best player on offense to have you really win a series too often. Maybe they got unlucky, but they'd be playing a team like the 76ers once again if they made it into the playoffs this year. So it's not about that part of the season. It's about this one. So 10-1 is a great find for him. I don't even think there's anything wrong with sprinkling something on Halliburton, which by the way, I did put that in the Lions Discord that I hit that already as well, which was Halliburton to win clutch player of the year. Because I'm sorry, clutch player of the year and most improved, but clutch player of the year is what I was talking about for Halliburton. I put that in the chat for 40-1 for him because I do think that it's just about guys like you mentioned Booker. Good thought. He'll probably have the ball in his hands a lot. So will KD. I do think you need to stand out and have that enough opportunities the way De'Aaron Fox did last year to be like, I'm clearly the guy with the ball in my hands at the end of the game when you need to come down and win. So we'll see what happens with Baby on that one. But I'll go on to my second bet here, which is really my favorite one. But I wanted to segue off your son's bet. I've hit this so many times now, which is the Knicks to be under 6.5, under the 6.5 seed in the East. You can bet that on DraftKings. It's now -120. It was at -105 when it came out, and like I said, I'm definitely contributed to pushing those odds down and that juice all the way down to -120 because I just love it so much. Like there's three teams right now that I'm like, all right, yeah, like you're three for sure better teams, regular season or otherwise. Even though one of them is the Cavs, and the Knicks stomped them in the playoffs last season in the first round. I actually really like the Cavs, though. By the way, like I don't want to poo-poo them. I'm there might be some gelling that needs to happen, but I think Donovan Mitchell to lead the league in scoring is a kind of sexy bet. He would have to get like 29-ish to close to 30. I think he's capable of that, taking another step forward. I like a lot of their additions as well, and like the George Niang pickup and people like that made them a little bit tougher. So we'll see how they progress, but I'm definitely not going to poo-poo the Cavs as like being on the downswing. I think if anything, they're on the upswing. But either way, they're a part of the Cavs and the Celtics and the Bucks are the three teams where I'm like, all right, I'm not going to try to like really consider the Knicks better than you, even though in the regular season I see them trying hard and playing a lot more starters than those, specifically those two teams at the very top with the Celtics and the Bucks, who can try to rest guys a bit more. Knicks might be able to steal certain games like that with them always playing their best players who are available. Obviously, health being contingent there, but I just want to mention they got White Dante when they picked up Josh Hart last year. They went 17-8 and improved their offensive rating to second in the league at like 120.5 on offense there. And now that you've got another Wildcat in house, like if you use a multiplier like the Villanova Wildcat multiplier, they just went from getting Josh Hart better to now Dante DiVincenzo adding to that effect as well. Where these guys like with Jalen Brunson have all played together in college, whatever. Like I do think it matters, and it's also the type of player that they need, which is Swiss Army knife guy in Dante DiVincenzo, who's Josh Hart light, like sort of like smaller, still can get offensive boards, but more just smaller and like better shooter. Josh Hart, I think it's a really nice compliment to all these guys, and there's a reason that they played well in the past together. I think you continue to expect that the continuation of the way that things got better for them when Hart showed up. That made their bench the fourth best bench in the league over the course of the entire year. Just with Josh Hart there over 25 games, because they already had Quickly coming off the bench, and you add him to like Jericho Sims and Hartenstein in the up front. And then obviously we know what like Emmanuel Quickly is capable of. Now, like I said, you had Dante DiVincenzo. I love the bench. I love the depth. I love them as a regular season team. I did put a small wager on them to be the 1 seed in the East at 25-1 because I was like, why not? And same with the Cavs. But we'll see. Like the regular season is going to be different, and the Knicks are definitely going to be a top 6 seed to me.
Yeah, I love this one. You're bringing it to my attention right now, and I will probably hit that. I mean, like you said, 17-8 since getting Josh Hart, and they just add another glue guy in Dante. Definitely like where they're headed here, and Jalen Brunson is our clutch god. The new point god. Love JB so much. Last pick here, Lakers in the playoffs. I said I have my concerns about the Suns in the playoffs, but the Lakers to me are the opposite. A team that is going to have to pick their spots in the regular season, and then can turn it on in the playoffs, like we saw last year. They had the number 2 defensive rating after the deadline, and then in the playoffs just held Memphis and Golden State down, even held Denver down 4 points below their usual offensive rating. I know Anthony Davis could still not stop Joker. Nobody could, but he is still maybe the best man for the job. LeBron still can pace himself, and they have a recipe where they can just beat these more finesse teams. Golden State, as they proved, Phoenix, if they happen to run into them, I think they can still bully them with their defense. And of course, they did bully Denver a few years ago when they met in the bubble. That 4-0 sweep we know was not as lopsided as the 4-0 indicates. The Lakers were in plenty of those games, and they got a little bit better around the margins. Gabe Vincent, Torian Prince, Christian Wood, maybe Cam Reddish shows something. Austin Reeves given a full workload here, and add Jackson Hayes for some insurance as a big off the bench. But really, it's about the vets, right? It's about AD and LeBron, and if they're healthy at the end of the line, like I'll take them 7-8 to 1 to win the conference. And then I guess you could consider 14 to 1 to win it all if they're going to get that far.
I do that all the time with different teams where I'm like, if I like you to win the conference, then I'm just gonna hit you to win the finals, because if my confidence takes me there, when you get there, I can bet you again, but like I'm not gonna get you at 14 to 1 again to win the, like, you know what I mean? You don't want to be sitting there with the correct ticket, sitting there being like, wait, I could have a 14 to 1 for them to just win one more series, which is probably priced closer to, depending on who they're playing, closer to maybe the best odds they would get is plus 250, plus 300, depending on how good the team in the East was coming out to play them. So I would agree that it's worth it at 14 to 1 to just sprinkle a little bit more unit measure, proportionally here. But like, obviously it's just a little bit to make sure that you cover your bases for when you get there, hopefully, and you're holding a correct ticket for them to win the conference. I'm glad you made clear that it was like postseason for them, because I still don't think the way that they got better around the margins matters for them to improve in the regular season, right? Because they're still just going to be going up against other guys that are about as good as the Gabe Vincents that are going to now be getting time for them. And so while I still like that, and Torian Prince is a great pickup, we'll see how good Seawood is. I think this is a great situation for Christian Wood because he's around LeBron. And so like shenanigans will not be tolerated, and you're around a real pro. Hopefully he wants to impress him, that kind of thing. So moving on to my last pick. I mean, you mentioned it. This is the other video that we talked about regular season wins. So I'm not mad at you for saying it there because it's a separate video. But this is my best bet here at the end, which is the Hawks to win the Southeast Division, because it's not an awesome price. I don't love tying up money in it that much, but it's still like you can get it at plus 240 for the Hawks to claim the Southeast. And just everything that I said, taking a Miami Heat under and wins, regular season wins in the other video at 45.5. I know you said you don't want to tempt that fate, but I just got so far with the game theory of liking the Hawks to exceed expectations so much versus expecting the Heat to just be their blah mess selves during the regular season with a worse roster than they've had in the past that will not afford them the leeway to be as blah, even though I think that'll be to a degree their attitude. Like, and you're coming off a regular, the championship loss, like that does matter to me in a lot of ways. But at any rate, for the Hawks specifically, like just reiterating some of the stuff you said in the other video, starting with Quinn Snyder, because I've like wanted to bet on the Hawks overs. I feel like we both have wanted to bet the overs as it's sat in their win total around 38, 40 in that range over the last like 3 seasons. And it's been the same thing each season where it's like, they have a new coach and we like the roster. We like the parts. We like what could be, but like, we don't know what this coach is going to do with that. We know what Quinn Snyder is going to do with that. And I think it's going to be, and in the end, successful for this team. So if they're going to win over 40, they're going to win 42 games between that and like 42. And I think their ceiling is like 47. Really, I think this is a slightly breakout year for them. I do like some of the additions that when they got Sadiq Bey at the end of last season. That was awesome. There's going to be more time for Okongwu and even Jalen Johnson this year. And then Bogey wasn't healthy last year. So we'll see how that goes. Kobe Buffkin, we'll also see what we have there. But like just talent wise and rawness, like he's got it. He's nice. He could play in the NBA with the way he moves. But we'll see how it all comes together. I just think that the additions are enough with Quinn Snyder at the helm controlling everything for this team to get, like I said, the 45-ish wins, which I think will be good for the worst division in the league, and you can still get it at plus 240.
Yeah, I obviously, if you guys watch the win totals episode, you'll see my take that I love the Hawks to go over 42 and a half. 45 wins is certainly in the range of outcomes. I mean, especially Kobe Buffkin, you mentioned, if they had just given him up, I think they'd have Pascal Siakam at this point. So if they decide to put together a little bit of a better package, they
Right.
could have a really good team with Siakam there in that power forward spot.
Yep, that's a really good call as well. So that's all the time we have for you in this one. Excited to get into regular season action with you guys on Tuesday of next week. So hopefully we'll be talking to you guys soon. And until we do see you next, happy betting.